Well, let's take a look today at some intervals on the piano that we can learn so that when we hear intervals, we can associate them with their correct name. So again, intervals are going to be how we're going to measure the distance between two notes. So on the piano, what we want to do is look for all of the possible intervals. Now, of course, the first interval that we're going to look at is a minor second. This is one of the most famous songs that use the minor second. And of course, that's the famous Jaws theme from John Williams' movie Jaws. So if you hear that, that's a half step, or what we would call a minor second. Now, of course, that could be anywhere on the piano, right? And it's still a minor second. Now, the next thing to associate is the major second. And I always use the opening of Happy Birthday for this one. So that interval is a major second if you think happy birthday. Now the next interval up is a minor third. A minor third is like this. Sometimes I'll think of Philip Glass's music. Or oftentimes you can even think of Jingle Bells. So that opening leap for Jingle Bells is actually a minor third. You wouldn't think that that would be in a Christmas song, right? It's kind of interesting. The next interval to think about is the perfect fourth. I always think of it with Wagner's Here Comes the Bride. That opening fourth there is a perfect fourth. So if you hear Here Comes the Bride, that's a perfect fourth anywhere on the piano. Now, the next one is a perfect fifth. Of course, we can use Mozart's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star for this one. That opening interval from the C to the G is that perfect fifth here. Love the sound of that perfect, pure interval there. Now, for a major sixth, we can look at My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean. My Bonnie lies over. It's an easy interval. There's a good interval. The minor sixth, actually, which is lower than this, the minor sixth can be taken from the Entertainer. So that interval, the larger interval, not the opening interval, but the larger interval right there is a minor sixth. I played a Chopin Nocturne years ago to get into college, to audition into my undergrad, and it had an opening minor sixth. And that opening minor sixth, every time I heard that, I thought about the Chopin Nocturne. So that minor sixth could be Chopin. It could be the opening of The Entertainer by Scott Joplin. Now, if we're going up to the minor seventh, these are a little bit harder. You can think of Somewhere from Bernstein, or you could make something up yourself. But here's our minor seventh. And then, of course, we have our major seventh, which for me, I think of Maria from the West Side Story. Maria, a major seventh. Also, the minor seven, going back a step, if you think of a triad or a 5-7 chord, reminds me of our dominant 5-7 chord. That should be resolved there. And if you think of the major seven, it's similar. You can just sit there in that sound of the major seventh chord. But the outlining interval is that minor, or in that major seventh for this one here. And then, of course, our final interval is the octave. So it's just the same tone, but one octave higher. And sometimes I think, somewhere over the rainbow. So that opening song, the opening interval is a perfect octave. So all of these intervals could be super helpful for us if we're trying to listen and hear something, or even if you have an idea in your head, you hear a melody and you're not sure how to write it down, all you have to do is listen for one note to the next, interval by interval, and you can write down all of those notes that you have in your head. Now, another way to find all of the major intervals is actually to start from the tonic, or the 1 of your major scale, and go up. So from C, if we're in C major, the next note up would be our D, and that's going to be our major second. Then we have a major third next, and then we have a perfect fourth, then we have a perfect fifth, then we have a major sixth, a major seventh, and then our perfect octave. So if we use all of the intervals in a simple major scale, which is all of the white notes here from C to C, we can easily find all of the major intervals. It doesn't work that way with the minor scale necessarily, but you can still find all of the minor intervals in the minor scale. You just have to be a little bit more creative. So for example, if you did a C minor scale, you would have to use a different starting note for your minor second. Like you would have to use from a D to an E flat for your minor second, the Jaws theme. But from your tonic to the third note of the scale, you can get your minor third. And then of course from your tonic to the 6th note, you can get your minor 6th right there. And then of course your minor 7th is the 7th note. So that minor 7th is found there. So you can either think of a famous song, or you can think of a major or minor scale to think of your major and minor intervals. And that can help you when you're doing oral skills and you're trying to hear something, or you hear a song or someone whistles the tune and you're trying to figure out what those notes are. All you have to do is find the starting note, and from there you can find all of the rest of the notes in your melody. Well, I hope that was super helpful. Take some time this week to really learn all of these intervals and associate them with a certain song or a certain pitch content. It'll really help you out in the long run.